Which champion has been better for their promotion, Kenny Omega or Roman Reigns? We're going to break this down in three ways: character and promo, match quality, and their booking. So, Ralph, let's start with character and promo. Who do you think has been better character-wise and promo-wise, Roman or Kenny Omega?
Roman Reigns is certainly one of the top guys in the industry, if not the most talked about guy across pro wrestling. The character development going from the big dog or the guy that used to be in the Shield and to see where he's at now in this new heel role and the level of confidence that he has. I feel like Roman Reigns goes out there, and from the second he comes out, I don't get the sense that he's playing a character, right? And that's what you want as a wrestling fan. You want to be able to believe that what you're seeing, because we all know this is essentially staged. You want to be able to lose yourself in the moment. I think with Roman, the level of believability certainly is there for me, and I think most wrestling fans would agree. I think that in terms of character, it's certainly Roman Reigns who's doing much better in this case. It's kind of crazy to think that this was the guy in Roman Reigns that essentially choked on live TV when in his promo exchange with John Cena, because right now, I think just in terms of his character and his promo ability, he's much more confident. He's much more loose out there. I don't feel like it's forced. I think that it's natural. And with Kenny, I don't always get that. I think this past week on Dynamite, Kenny was more comfortable and it felt more authentic when he was talking to the Young Bucks. I thought that was one of his better promos just because it wasn't forced. Like a lot of times I think Kenny is saying and doing certain things because he feels like he has to do that to prove that he's a heel, because that's what heels should do. And that's what a heel should say. As far as character and promo, I'm going to say Roman is the guy. And when comparing these two, just because most people would agree, I think Kenny Omega's strong suit is certainly not his promos. It's his in-ring work. But I'm going to go with Roman here.
Well, I mean, I think Kenny's character, since he's become AEW champion, has significantly improved. And I think in today's wrestling world, where it's very hard to hate a heel, I think he has those qualities where you really want to hate him. I think that goofiness that people criticize him for kind of helps him become a hated heel, because it's like, this guy is champion, really? Look how goofy he is with his finger pointing and his facials, and he's got these girls coming out with broomsticks dancing like idiots. The whole over-the-top ring announcing with Justin Roberts and the whole North Carolina, that just makes you want to cringe. And maybe that some people might find that as bad heat, go away heat kind of thing. But I actually think it's not that bad. His promos, I mean, you bring up the one that he had this past Wednesday with the Bucks, I thought was a very good promo. Maybe one of his best promos. And I think as his time has progressed with Don Callis, he has gotten more comfortable in his promos. I think this might be the most even of the two as far as who is better than the other. But it's hard to say Roman is not better than Kenny in this regard for character and promo. Let's move on. Match quality. Roman, some people don't like his matches, but his matches have definitely improved since he became a Universal Champion and since he's returned and become the Tribal Chief. But Kenny's the best Bout Machine. Any match that he's in, he has a great match. It's hard to really determine a bad match for Kenny Omega. So I don't know how you could say that Roman Reigns has had better matches than Kenny Omega here. But what do you think?
Well, I think that it comes down to the title reigns themselves, because we're kind of comparing them based on, I guess, their title reign and what the matches that have defined their title reign.
Correct.
So there's a couple of things going on here. So Kenny Omega has gone out and he's competed outside of AEW. So he had his match against Laredo Kid, which was very good. Kenny, unfortunately, his title reign hasn't been as long as Roman Reigns. So it's almost unfair to compare the two, because Roman has a head start. He's had a larger body of work to kind of analyze and look at there. So when you look at the matches, he's really helped elevate people, which is what you'd want of a champion. And that's what I've talked about for Roman Reigns since he's really become this head of the table character. You look at Jey Uso. He was essentially a guy, he competed in the tag team division, but his matches with Roman really helped define him, where they talked about, I forget what they call him. Do they call him Big Match Jay or Main Event Jay?
Main Event Uso.
Yeah. So, I mean, that doesn't happen by accident. That's a byproduct of being able to work with Roman Reigns and the matches that he was having with Roman Reigns. So I think that certainly adds credibility to Roman Reigns and his ability to go out there and have good matches. His feud with Kevin Owens, A majority of those matches were very good. You talk about their steel cage match, where I think it was something like 4 million people were watching that match alone. That was a very good match. Their feud was very good. So all those matches were very good. That was unfortunately kind of defined by the one incident with the handcuffs, which is similar to Kenny, and the unfortunate incident with the pyro. The match against Daniel Bryan that we just saw, which was also very good for Roman Reigns, and then him tapping out. So a little more character development there. Obviously, leading into WrestleMania, we know that that's going to play a role in now being a triple threat. And his match against Drew McIntyre, which was also very, very good. I think the difficult thing for me, and you even kind of said it yourself, I need to separate knowing how good Kenny is and how good he was in Japan and look at it just based on what he's done lately. And because Roman has done more, and with anybody he's worked with, it's been great. He's had really, really good, consistent matches with Kevin Owens, with Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso, Daniel Bryan. I'm actually going to go with Roman Reigns here because I think that, yes, if you were to ask me, okay, if we weren't just looking at their heel turns and looking at their title reigns here, if you were to ask me who's a better in-ring wrestler overall, I would say Kenny Omega. But if I'm looking just at their title reigns and looking at what they've done lately, I'm going with Roman Reigns because right now Roman Reigns, by most people's standard, is performing at a different level. And I can't say that Kenny Omega, who, mind you, performs at a very high level, and to meet that standard that he was working at in Japan is a really high bar to hit. I can't say this is the best work that I've seen from Kenny Omega because his matches against Okada, the stuff that I've seen from him in the past in New Japan Pro Wrestling, to me still is better than what I've seen from him in AEW. So for those reasons, and people I'm sure are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. But for those reasons, I'm going to say Roman Reigns right now is performing better than Kenny Omega.
Well, I mean, you brought up the fact that in WWE, Roman has brought up some talent with the likes of Jey Uso and Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan and making them look better in their matches. But I think Kenny Omega has done the same in those matches that he's had. Yes, limited sample size, but you look at the matches that he's had in AEW. The match with Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix, I think people thought of him as a main eventer after that match. The match recently with Matt Sydal, where he made it look like Matt Sydal could legitimately beat Kenny Omega in that match. Obviously, the match with Moxley, the exploding barbed wire death match, was a good match. Eddie Kingston becomes a star because of the ending, too, or at least the attempt was to make him a star after that match. But from what I've seen, Kenny does make his guys look good, too, in the ring. And I think what separates Roman and Kenny as far as a match quality concern is I don't think Roman has won a match clean yet as Universal Champion. And get it, he's a heel. He has nefarious ways of winning, but Kenny's a heel too, and he has won matches cleanly. So if you're one of those that is not a fan of dirty finishes or schmazzes or whatever, I don't think you're going to really like Roman's finishes all the time because it happens in every match.
Yeah, that is true. And I think that comes down to his character too, because we've talked about this before. It's almost like Roman is projecting himself as the tribal chief, the head of the table, this guy that he's pretending to be, and he's really not that guy. So there is some complexity there to the levels of his character because he goes out there and he says all these things and he does all these things and he projects himself as this high and mighty character. And in reality, he's always needed help to try and win. So I don't think that's something that should be looked down upon if you're a fan, because it's just adding that element and that level to his character. But I don't disagree. And I'm not saying that Kenny Omega is a bad wrestler by any means. He's great. He's one of my favorites. But it'd be interesting to see, like, if Roman loses the title at WrestleMania, right? Which is 2 weeks away.
2 weeks away.
And Kenny continues to carry the title for another couple of months. And this starts being a little more even title reign. You know, Roman's would be about 30 days. And Kenny gets around the same time. And they have equal amount of matches. It might be a little more fair to compare because, again, Roman essentially has double the matches as far as singles competition that Kenny has. But no, I think they're both good. But I just think that the matches that Roman's had with Kevin, with Jey, with Drew McIntyre, Daniel Bryan, they've all been really, really good. And Kenny's matches have been good too, but it's just a smaller sample set.
So would you say in that regard too, with booking Roman compared to booking Kenny, that kind of helps Roman's argument, the complexity of it, that Roman has been booked better as Universal Champion than Kenny has been booked as AEW Champion?
And this is where it's odd for me, because when you first sent me the criteria that we were going to base this discussion on, I thought to myself, okay, well, this is going to be easy. Match quality alone, I'm going to say Kenny Omega all day, until I started thinking about it. And I was like, I don't know if I can confidently go with Kenny. And I said, well, as far as booking, I'm going to go with Roman, because Roman's doing the best work of his career and he's the top heel in the industry and he's the guy that everybody's talking about. And this was one of the ones that I was struggling with, because when I started thinking about things and writing things down, I couldn't necessarily go with Roman. So let me explain this.
Okay.
Now, what's the point of booking, right? So I guess you have to kind of ask yourself that before you can kind of determine which guy you're going to pick. Get yourself over, bring prestige to the title, get people around you over as well. So Roman has done all those things. He's helped establish the title that he's carrying. He's helped establish his character. He's helped elevate people, whether it's been Jey Uso. Kevin Owens has essentially been more relevant than he has been in years since coming out of the feud. Daniel Bryan and Edge, we know that they're obviously in a position where they're going to be challenging for the title at WrestleMania, and all those things are intriguing. He probably has the most intriguing storyline going into WrestleMania right now.
Yeah, probably. I can agree with that.
Then there's Kenny Omega. And this is where I kind of lean towards Kenny, surprisingly having better booking, because while I don't think he's elevated people to the level that Roman has, because I don't think the Good Brothers bring anything to the table. I don't think that Kenny has helped elevate them. They've essentially just been the same guys they always have been. I don't think he's helped elevate them. But Kenny almost has a bigger responsibility because he is doing this cross-promotional type stuff. Now, the level of success, we could debate that back and forth, but he is expected to go and challenge in other, promotions like AAA or Impact. And I think that carries a certain weight for it. And I think that that's why I vote for Kenny Omega in this respect, because I think that going outside, Roman is a WWE guy. The way he's being booked is very WWE-esque, and that's fine. It's great. It works. But when you're expected to go into other promotions and not only just win over the fans of AEW, but convince other fans that going to watch his matches against like Rich Swann, for example, we know that they're going to have the cross-promotional match. That's difficult because fans have a really, really big loyalty towards mostly one company. There's very few people that you're going to find that are both a WWE diehard fan and an AEW diehard fan. You usually choose one of the two, and you really can't find many people that are going to say, well, I'll watch Impact, but I'm not going to watch AEW. So those are the weird tribalistic things that you get with pro wrestling. So I think it's almost more difficult for Kenny Omega to be booked because he is doing that type of stuff. So I'm gonna say Kenny Omega for this one.
I think part of the booking, with Kenny, the whole belt collector concept, it's a great idea to add prestige to the AEW championship, add, credibility to Kenny Omega himself. But I think that kind of also creates a little chaos and things going all over the place, because unless you're watching Impact, unless you're watching Dynamite, unless you're following AAA, and if he eventually goes to New Japan Pro Wrestling and you follow that whole storyline and wherever else he goes, are you going to follow Kenny Omega all over the place? Now, back in the territory days, Ric Flair would do this. He would bring the World Heavyweight Championship and go to different territories, whether it's AWA, whether it's WCCW and Crockett Promotions, and bring that title with him. Kenny, I guess, essentially is doing the same thing, and that could help. And that is great booking if all the fans follow along.
Yeah.
If they don't follow along, and we've said this, I'm not going to do my homework to try to follow a storyline.
Right.
So is everyone going to do their homework to follow the storyline? Whereas Roman Reigns, every Friday, 8 o'clock, his music hits. He's going to do a promo. He's going to say how he's the tribal chief and have someone acknowledge him. And then there's at least some kind of consistency with his booking. And as much as I don't like his matches ending with smodges all the time and some dirty finishes and him winning with nefarious means, it fits his character so much more. And I think the booking of Roman Reigns right now is better than Kenny Omega, because with Kenny, I think you still have things to develop still. And right now, him beating Rich Swann and unifying the titles and him becoming the Impact Wrestling champion, I don't think helps him as much as people think it will. It's just another belt for him to have. Him having the AAA championship, which he never really has defended, and granted, yes, we're in a pandemic, so I understand why he hasn't. But does that add credibility to him as the belt collector? No. But if he goes against Ibushi and beats him for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, that adds credibility to it. If he starts beating people we actually see on a consistent basis on Dynamite, that will add credibility to it. So I think right now, I'm going to go with Roman Reigns has been booked better. So now that we broke down the criteria, would you say that Roman Reigns is the better champion right now than Kenny Omega?
Better is very matter of fact, like based in fact and numbers and stuff like that. I would say most valuable. I think Roman Reigns is the most valuable wrestler in pro wrestling today. If Kenny Omega were to leave AEW tomorrow and go to WWE, I think that would be a big deal, but I don't think it would be as big of a deal as if Roman were to leave WWE and go to AEW. I think that right now Roman Reigns is the most valuable player in all of pro wrestling.
Right, but I mean, when you take into consideration the booking, when you take into consideration the match quality and the promo and character work, I mean, I think it's really even, because you can make the argument that Kenny's character has done better than Roman's character, depending on your personal preference. Match quality, Roman has definitely stepped up his game since he's returned to WWE. Yeah. And Kenny, as we said, he's the best bout machine. So match quality is always going to be there. Booking. I'm a little surprised to say that you took booking for Kenny over Roman. Today, recording, I will say Kenny. But if we record the same episode tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever else we decide to record this again, and maybe we revisit this 6 months later, I might say Roman's the better champion.
Let me ask you this. If you're a promoter, you're opening your own pro wrestling organization.
Yep.
And you had the number one pick. Who are you taking? Are you taking Kenny or are you taking Roman?
Depends what my promotion goal is. If I want the best matches, I'll take Kenny. But if I want the best star power, the guy that's going to get me more investment out of the audience, I think right now I would have to go with Roman.
Yeah. And this was really difficult to go back and forth on all this criteria. I think that right now Roman's doing the best work of his career. He's the most important guy in pro wrestling right now that everyone's kind of paying attention to. And at the end of the day, I've seen better out of Kenny Omega in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I can't confidently say that right now Kenny's performing at the same level as Roman across the board. And that's kind of like why if I had to pick one or the other, I would take Roman. But that's just me.
All right. Well, it's not the only debate that we've had between AEW and WWE recently. We just talked about how Logan Paul and Shaq are either the same or different when bringing in celebrities for their promotion. You can click the thumbnail on the screen right now to check out that conversation. Don't forget to share us all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, SCPB Podcast. Like this video, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications to join the conversation. And we'll see you all on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psychobabble.